The most successful consultants have a clearly defined niche. If you want to grow your business, if you want to attract more clients, if you want to have more people coming to you, then defining your niche is incredibly important. Niche originates from the French nicher, which means to nest. And the way I think about that is that defining your niche, or some people say niche, is really about being known for something, carving out a place that you reside, right, in the competitive landscape. So before we go through the exercise of how to actually identify and kind of analyze and think through and arrive at a level of confidence that you really are focused on the right niche, let's talk about why. Why is this even so important? So the first reason is that right now, today, in the world that we are all in, there are more options, more choices, more variables and variations, more people vying for the attention of your ideal clients than ever before in the humankind, mankind, whatever you want to call it. If you take a look at the typical executive, they receive hundreds of emails every single day, not to mention messages on LinkedIn, phone calls, meetings, people in their office, family members. Like, they're fully consumed with everything going on in their day-to-day life. And so you need to cut through all that. You need to stand out. And that's what defining your niche, defining, the place that you are going to nest, the place that you are going to reside, to own, to be known for, is so incredibly important. Because if you don't define that, then it's very hard for you to actually be known for anything. And therefore, it's very hard for you to stand out. If you are a jack of all trades and a master of none, that's not very memorable. It doesn't come across as a true expert, as somebody who can solve a specific problem. Very few executives right now, right, or decision makers, whether it's in a nonprofit or a for-profit, whether it's a small organization or a multi-billion-dollar organization, very few of them are thinking, I just really need a generalist that can, kind of help me to think through some things here. They're looking for experts, right? They're looking for someone that can support them, can provide new perspectives, opinions, guidance, recommendations, and that's an expert. So for you to define what is the niche that you are going to own, where are you going to play, is really paramount to your success. All right, number two, if you study the most successful companies, whether they're consulting companies or they are in different industries, you will almost always find that they have a very clear focus. Essentially, they have decided what is the niche that they are going to own. Where are they going to rest? Where are they going to play? Let's take an example. LEK Consulting, started by, or one of the co-founders, Richard Koch. Richard Koch has written many books on the 80-20 principle. He used to be, I believe, at Bain Consulting, just classic, pure consulting, path into a large organization. Well, he left working at Bain to start a new consulting firm with some partners. And they didn't enter the market deciding, let's just do the same as everyone else. Let's just be another McKinsey or another Bain or another BCG. Let's make sure that we have a real niche. And so what did they do? Well, you can actually go back in time and look at this and find this online by doing some research, is that they decided they would focus on shareholder advisory and valuation services, because at that time, very few consulting firms were providing support in those specific areas, right? They saw an opportunity in the marketplace, an area that they could own, they could really be known for. Stripe is another example. Stripe is one of the world's top payment processors. You may have heard the name before, right? Very large. But when Stripe got started, they were tiny and they were competing with much larger payment processing companies like Authorize.net, PayPal. And so they didn't come out and say, we're just another payment processor. If you, again, go back in time and do the research, you can see that the way that Stripe got started is by focusing on developers. They said payments for developers. PayPal was not focusing on developers. In fact, at that time, PayPal had a pretty bad development environment for, it just wasn't developer friendly. And so Stripe saw that as an opportunity. Again, they niched down. And you'll see this over and over. And the biggest mistake that people make, and the reason why most people think that they need to go much broader, is because they look at companies today. So if you look at Stripe today, or you look at LEK Consulting today, they will not look like how they got started. Today, they look like they are a Jack or Jill of all trades, right, doing all different things, tons of different capabilities, payment processing for all sizes of businesses, but that's not how they started. So it's important that when you look at successful organizations around you, don't look at where they are today and think that the success that they're having today is the result of just what they're doing today, right? The success they're having today is the result of the choices they made in the past. And when you're getting started, and when I say started, I don't mean that you're brand new to consulting. Maybe you've been consulting for 5 or 10 years. But if you want to start to scale your consulting business, if you want to grow beyond where you are right now, it's incredibly important to have a clear niche. Now, another reason, okay, so the third reason to really define your niche in consulting is that Everyone understands, the marketplace understands that experts command higher fees. If you think about the general, family doctor compared to the brain surgeon, who do you think makes more? Well, of course, it's the brain surgeon, right? Everyone understands that that is a higher level of specialization. In fact, you have to go to school, right? You have to study for more years in university and medical school to get that level of education, right? And to actually have that specialty. That's just one part, right? The schooling part is just one component of it. But the main thing is that if you look around, take, an accountant versus an international tax accountant or tax specialist, who do you think charges more, the general accountant or the international tax specialist? Of course, the international tax specialist. And this applies to almost every area of business and life and industry. And so for you, the lesson here is that by defining your niche, you in fact are going to be able to command higher fees, and the marketplace will recognize that. Now, number 4 is positioning. So when you think about how you are going to be positioned in the marketplace, and very few people actually think about positioning. Very few people really spend the time to look at the marketplace and try and define and decide, where are their gaps right now? Where's their demand? Where am I world class? Where can I create the best results? If everybody is doing X, then how can I provide Y, or how can I position what I'm doing as Y? And so this, I could do a whole video just on the topic of positioning, because it really is that important. And maybe I should put in the comments below if you'd like me to do a video just on positioning itself. But this is a classic area that is so critical for you to define your niche, is to think about not only what market or industry are you going to work or specialize in, and not only who is the ideal client and what do they look like and their criteria, their job title, their geographic location, the size of the company. Not just only that, but how are you going to actually position your expertise? Take all of your skills, your knowledge, your track record of success, right? What you offer, and how are you going to position that to tie into the niche that you are going to be focusing on. We do a lot of work with our clients on this topic, right, around positioning inside of our Clarity Coaching program, because it's so critical. You can take, line up a whole group of consultants, and if the vast majority of them are going to be saying the same things to the marketplace, therefore then viewed as commodity consultants. If you're providing the same thing as everybody else, if you're just doing workshops and everybody's doing workshops, if you're facilitating and everybody's facilitating, right? If you're doing strategic planning and everybody's doing strategic planning, well, what's unique about what you're offering? So really thinking about, how do you bring your unique take, your experience? How do you package that in a new way? How do you brand that, name it, right? There's a lot of components that go into this, but it also ties into niche. And if you're not clear on what your niche is and where your real focus is, you're gonna have a very hard time developing and defining a powerful positioning in the marketplace. Then I'll just cap this off by saying a couple of additional points on why this is so important. Then I'm gonna get into the actual exercise and take you through how to identify and think about defining and deciding on your niche based on the niche scoring method. So 2 notes before I get there. One is that if you're not known for something, right, it's very hard for you to be memorable. It's very hard for you to build a brand. It's very hard for you to command higher fees and premium fees. So you really, again, want to define, what do you want to be known for, so that people don't just say, oh yeah, this person's a consultant, right? She's a consultant, he's a consultant. They're not just saying, yeah, you're a marketing consultant. That's all too broad, right? You really want to be thinking, what do you truly want to be known for? What is the main problem that you solve? What is the result that you can provide that you're world class at? And the second part of that is that those who define their niche clearly see significantly faster and better results with their marketing. And if you think about that for a moment, the reason is pretty clear, right? If you are just going to the marketplace and you haven't really defined your niche, right? If you haven't really thought about, how do you really want to show up in the marketplace? What do you want to be known for? What is unique about your offering? How is that positioned? Then you probably aren't clear about your ideal client. You probably don't have a message that really will get the attention and interest of your ideal clients, right? And so therefore, it doesn't really matter what kind of marketing you do. If you don't have those kind of foundational, fundamental components in place, then your marketing typically will be lacking results. And then it's true on the flip side, that once you define your niche very clearly, once you have the positioning, the messaging, the clarity around your ideal client, and then that goes into your marketing, well, now all of a sudden you start seeing people raising their hands and saying, yes, that's really interesting. I'd like to have that conversation with you, or tell me more about how you do that, because you've clearly defined where you can add value. You're speaking specifically about the problem that you solve and the result that you can create in a unique way. So it's not the same as everybody else. All right, so let's get into the niche scoring method. I'll take you through this. There's a few components. I'll go over 4 of these today. There's a whole bunch of additional ways to think about it, but I want to at least get you started on the right path. So the first part of this method is to think about, where do you have the most experience? So imagine for a moment that you're thinking right now, well, I've worked in 3 different industries to this point. Now, what we see most consultants doing, if that's their situation, is they'll just try and say, I work with A and B and C and D, right? And I can provide all these different things, again, A, B, C, D, right? So they have this kind of laundry list of experiences and things that they can do, which makes sense, right? If you're coming from a background where you've done a lot of different things, you can by default do a lot of things, but that doesn't mean that you should focus on all those things. And it certainly doesn't mean that you should be talking about all those things right away in your messaging and in your positioning, because that creates confusion. It's very hard for the marketplace or for your ideal clients to not only recognize and figure out what do you actually do, but also to remember you if you are saying that you do a whole bunch of different things. So again, imagine for a moment you have 3 different industries that you're thinking about targeting. What you do in this niche scoring method is you will go through and you're going to give a score between 1 to 5, right? 1 being very low, 5 being very high. So, what level of experience do you have in these different industries? So let's just say that, in industry number 1, maybe you have a 2. In industry number 2, you have, maybe you give it a 4. Right? Industry number 3, maybe it's a 5 because you have the most experience there. So you're giving a number, right? Assigning a number between 1 to 5 for each of those different industries or parts that you're thinking about. And this could also be, overlay another component of this, which would be the actual ideal client. So maybe you're thinking about type of industry, maybe you're thinking about type of ideal client. Maybe you worked with CFOs or CMOs or CTOs or right, whatever that is. So you could also think through this niche scoring method based on the ideal client. So that's number 1 is experience. Okay, where do you have the most experience? Between 1 to 5, score. Then next is results. So you want to look at your experience to this point and think about where do you have the most results? Have you created, as an example, maybe you've spent some years in manufacturing, but nothing jumps out in terms of very tangible, significant results that you believe that the ideal client in a manufacturing company would desire. And then maybe another industry that you've worked in is pharmaceutical, and there you've had some amazing results that potentially they won awards or they helped the pharmaceutical company to launch a new drug or research that created some very significant value and had a massive impact in different marketplaces. So think through, again, the criterias of those different industries and think, where do you have the most results? And again, results should not just be high level, vague, general. Results should be very specific that your ideal client would care about, that they would be excited about, that would demonstrate to them that you truly are an expert in that area. Number 3 is access. Where do you have the most access? And access refers to, when you think about your current network, which are either the people you're directly connected to or maybe people you can get referred to through your network. Maybe it's people from your past company, people that you've met at events, current client base, people around you. You think about, where do you have the most access? Where can you pick up a phone right now, right? Make some phone calls and set up some meetings. Where can you send some emails right now or LinkedIn messages and pretty quickly start to get some traction? Right? Because access is important. If you have 0 access, like let's say you're going to score a number 1 in one of these industries because you're brand new and you're passionate about it, that's fine. I'm not saying that you shouldn't go for an industry or a direction that you score low in. That's not the purpose of this exercise. The purpose of this exercise is to help you to see where you're likely to have the greatest success and the most traction and see results in the fastest time possible. So if you score low, let's say in access, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't go after it, especially if you're new in that industry, but you need to recognize that it does likely mean that it's going to take you a heck of a lot longer to start seeing results and to start getting the kind of traction that you want and the kind of traction you could likely see by focusing on an industry or one of the kind of columns that you're thinking about where you have a higher level of access. So again, score those between 1 to 5 on access. And then the final one here that I'll talk about today is demand. So where do you believe there's going to be the greatest demand, right? You think about industries, certain industries are doing very well. Others are likely to, maybe they're plateaued, maybe they're declining. If you want to focus on an industry that is in decline or an industry that is likely going to be hit hard over the next few years based on what's happening, politically, geopolitically, economically, whatever, all the different factors, that's important for you to take into consideration. So score between 1 to 5. A 5 is very high demand, lots of opportunity, and 1 would be low demand, not as much opportunity. So you take those 4 criterias and you look at the score and you add them up. So in this example, we're talking about industry. Again, you could do this based on type of ideal client, right? Job title, right? Or definition similar to that, and do a similar type of exercise. But here we're talking about industry. So you'd go through and you'd give a score, tally up through the 4 different criteria and see what your number is, right? The higher the number, the higher likelihood that you will see greater success, traction, results faster. Again, this is not meant to be the only thing. It's meant to be a tool to help you to analyze and therefore make better decisions. Getting this right is so critical. to really defining a powerful positioning in the marketplace, to understand, what is the niche, what is the spot that you want to be known for, right? What do you truly want to own? What do you want to build your business around? This will help you to get greater clarity around your ideal client. It'll help you to develop a message that will get the attention and interest of your ideal clients. It'll help you to make your marketing more effective because it will be embedded with those foundational components of your ideal client and a message that speaks to them. So your marketing will now work better as a result once you have this dialed in appropriately. And this also, as we talked about earlier, directly impacts your pricing. If you don't have a clear niche, if you don't have powerful positioning and compelling positioning, it tends to lead to you charging lower fees. Lower fees, not only are they bad for your business because there's less profitability and less revenue, but lower fees also signal to the marketplace that you are typically an inferior solution. And that's not about you personally. It's just that when you think about pricing, right, a higher price, you typically think higher quality. If you're a lower price, it often sends a signal to the marketplace that you're lower quality. And you might be premium quality, but you're charging right now based on lower quality. So you're actually turning away higher value buyers that want higher quality because they see a lower price, and therefore they start thinking something must be wrong here. So this is some of the stuff that's really important to be thinking about as you look to define and develop and grow your consulting business and your niche. So the kind of stuff that we help our clients with all the time inside of the Clarity Coaching Program. If you want more information on that, head over to consultingsuccess.com, click on the coaching tab in the navigation there, or there's probably a link just below this video in the description. Click on that, head over, get in touch, and we'll be happy to chat with you about your specific situation.